In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the all-new AYANEO Pocket Mini. This is one that I've been really excited about, mainly due to pricing. And as we know, when it comes to AYANEO devices, they do make some really good handhelds, but the price can be quite high most of the time. But that's where the Pocket Mini kind of changes things up. This is their least costly device to date, and we'll go over pricing in just a bit. But what they've done here is really interesting. Obviously, we've got a very small form factor handheld, and first things first, this is an Android powered device. So we've got an ARM chip here. It's not an x86 device that's going to run Windows, but we can still get a lot of emulation and gaming done on this thing. And with this, Ioneo has also created the world's first 4.2-inch 4 by 3 aspect ratio display, which is going to be perfect for retro gaming on this device. And though we've got a very compact design, they still managed to add some really nice hardware here, like Hall-based analog sticks. The D-pad here feels great, and we'll do some testing by the end. Personally, love the way they've got this set up here. And when it comes down to it, Ioneo has always done a really good job with their D-pads. There's an AYANEO button up front that'll bring up our quick menu, and we've also got ISpace built in here. A fully adjustable active cooling system with our intake vent around back here. Up top, we've got our shoulder buttons, plus they added Hall-based triggers here, the exhaust vent for that active cooling system, a volume rocker, and our power button. On the bottom here, dual stereo speaker system built in, USB Type-C for charging the device up and syncing it. We've also got a 3.5mm audio jack and a micro SD card slot. At the time of making this video, it looks like Ioneo is going to be offering three different color variants. I've got the retro white, they've also got the retro power, and the black variant. And of course, when it comes to the overall specs, this is powered by the Helio G90T. It's an 8-core ARM SoC. It'll clock a little over 2 gigahertz, and we've got 2 Cortex A76 cores and 6 Cortex A55 cores. The GPU is the Mali G76 MP4 up to 800 megahertz, and you can get this in two different configurations. You can get it with 2 gigs of RAM and 32 gigabytes of internal storage, or 3 gigs of RAM and 64 gigabytes of internal storage. It's got Wi-Fi 5, Bluetooth 5.0, a 4500 milliamp hour battery with 18-watt fast charging. It only weighs 269 grams. It's running Android 11. And when it comes to the screen, like I mentioned, this is the world's first 4.2-inch 1280 by 960 4 by 3 aspect ratio display, up to 500 nits of brightness, 123% sRGB. And just to kind of give you an idea, with that aspect ratio and resolution, something like PlayStation and N64, 4x upscale, you're going to get pixel perfect with it. Dreamcast 2x, and not to mention Famicom, Mega Drive, Super Famicom, Sega Saturn, PS2, Neo Geo, bunch of Ataris, PC Engine, and NDS, all at that 4 by 3 aspect ratio. Now it's time to talk about pricing, and I do believe they're going to be running an Indiegogo with this. They've got the early bird price and limited time offer. So 2 gigs with 32 gigs of storage, $69.99. Early bird is $74.99, and retail is going to be $89.99. 3 gigs of RAM and 64 gigabytes of internal storage, $79.99. Early bird price is $84, and retail is going to be $99. So I've had this for a couple days. I still need to spend a little more time with it, but I do love the size. I mean, this thing will slide right in your pocket. It's got those recessed Hall-based analog sticks, so they're not going to, get caught on your pocket. And even though it's a smaller device, it's not kind of a candy bar shape, so it's actually really comfortable to hang on to. They did round off the corners and what we would call, our palm rest on a larger handheld, more of a finger rest with this if you've got larger hands. It definitely feels like a solid handheld, and it's got an unmistakable AYANEO design. I mean, as you can see, they're using their Air design, which they've gone through for a couple years now with their larger devices. And again, it's an Android-based device. Right out of the box, we do have access to Google Play, so you can go through and download your favorite emulators and applications. It doesn't have the most powerful CPU on the market. I mean, it's not a Snapdragon 8 Elite in this thing. We've got that MediaTek Helio G90T, which has been on the market for quite some time, but it's still very capable when it comes to Android gaming and especially emulation. This also has ISpace built in, so from here, you can actually choose which directory you want it to scan. It'll scan through, find all of your ROMs, it'll sort them out for you, but since it's running Android, I mean, you could always install a third-party front end if you want to. And we've also got all of the IS settings that we need here. like performance tuning. We've also got controller settings so we can customize every button. We can change the dead zones on the analog sticks and the triggers around back. You can adjust the RGB here, but one thing I'd love to see in the future is just a little more RGB control. Either way, I think the main section that I personally mess around with a lot is the performance section, and we have different modes that we can use here from eco, balanced, all the way up to max. And in max mode, it'll set that fan to full speed. It's not crazy, but it does get kind of loud. For the most part, I've just been in game mode. And if we move down, we can change the governor, but we can also change the clocks on those A76 cores and A55 cores. Plus, we can take the GPU all the way up to 800 megahertz. So you can really tweak and tune this thing. If you're running lower end games, you want to get better battery life, you can take it on down. We can also access the quick menu, which is usually what I do. Right here, we've still got all of those settings that are just really easy to access. And we've also got a nice little animation when you go to your different performance modes. And you can actually disable the animations if you don't like them, but personally, it just kind of gives me something to look at, know that I'm going to that mode, so I know exactly what I'm in. We've also got an on-screen overlay inside of here, which is something I usually enable quite a lot. That way I know exactly what's going on, so it's got a real-time FPS counter. Got a simple menu and a more expanded menu, which will give us the clocks on all cores, on the GPU, battery life, battery draw. Really intuitive. One emulator I love running on these smaller handhelds is GBA. Now we've got a 4:3 aspect ratio display and GBU is 3:2, but it still looks super sharp here. As you can see on the bottom, we've got a little bit of a bezel going on, but it's something that I personally don't mind, and I do love the way GBA looks on this display. A little oversaturated with 123% sRGB, which is kind of the way I like my smaller screens. Just kind of makes those colors pop. And as for performance, the Helio G90T has more than enough for these lower end emulators. If you want to do some upscaling with GBA, it's totally possible here. Shaders, overlays, I mean, we've got more than enough power with these lower end emulators. But I'll tell you, one that looks really good on this screen is Dreamcast. I like using the Redream emulator, and while I'm here, I figured we'd do a little bit of D-pad testing. In the past, AYANEO, with I'd say 90% of their devices, have been dead on with their D-pads, and this one's no different. It's a really great D-pad, and it's not an undersized D-pad given the form factor of this unit. I figured it would be a lot smaller than it is, but I mean, we've got plenty of room to work with it. You can play from the inside or the outer edge on this thing. Another thing people do with these Android-powered handhelds besides emulation is play Android games, so I did want to test at least one. And I know it's a super easy one to run here, but I just wanted to show off Minecraft. The analog sticks here are great, and the game runs just fine. I mean, we're at 60 FPS with this display. It's at 4:3, and most games for Android will scale properly on a 4:3 aspect ratio display. Next thing I wanted to test here was PSP. And of course, the aspect ratio is off. The original PSP had a 16:9 aspect ratio display. We've got a 4:3, so we've got some pretty big black bars on the top and bottom, but we've still got plenty of screen in the middle to play this game just fine. And you could scale this up just a bit from the PPSSPP settings, but in my opinion, it doesn't look right, so I don't mind playing it like this. And when it comes to performance here, even the harder to emulate PSP games are going to run at full speed, even upscaled by 2x or 3x. Easier to emulate stuff, you could go up from there, but even just at 2x across the board, it looks great on this screen. Next thing we need to talk about is higher end emulation, and it's getting harder and harder to show this stuff off on YouTube. But I did test out 5 games for GameCube and PS2. When it comes to GameCube, I'm using the official Dolphin emulator. There are other versions out there where you can probably get better performance in some of these games that I didn't get great performance in, mainly because with those versions, there's more hacks built in. Here's the deal. Time Splitters 2, 2x upscale, 60 FPS. That's full speed for that game. Wind Waker, 2x resolution scale, 30 FPS because it originally ran at 30 FPS, so we're getting full speed there. When it comes to F-Zero GX, a little harder to emulate, and at 1x resolution with the official Dolphin emulator, we only averaged 43. And again, with a different GameCube emulator like MMJ, you can probably see better performance. I consider Auto Modalista a mid-range game to emulate nowadays, and at 1x, we're right there at 52 FPS, so not quite full speed. And Smash Bros. Melee, 2x full speed, 60 FPS across the board. So out of these 5 games, I mean, 3 work flawlessly, and there's more that'll work really well with the official Dolphin emulator. You can swap between OpenGL and Vulkan. I find that with this MediaTek chip here, Vulkan is kind of the way to go. Moving over to some PS2 emulation using the Nether SX2 emulator, and I'm using the optimal save settings. With this, you can actually use some frame skip and get full speed in all of these on this set, but I wanted to use those save settings there. Sly Cooper did really well at 1x, so we're running at 60 FPS, full speed over there. God of War 2, around 53 FPS, so not quite full speed at 1x. And you can drop this down a little more, even in this emulator, so you can go to like 0.75 resolution scale and get full speed. But I wanted to at least keep it there at the native PS2 resolution. Tekken 5, also full speed at 1x, so 60 FPS there. Crash, Wrath of Cortex, I went to 3x and we might be able to go even higher, but it really doesn't make sense on the resolution we have with this display. But yeah, that's an easier to emulate game, runs great. And finally, Gran Turismo 4, 1x resolution, 60 FPS. So it would be nice to be able to do at least 2x across the board, but we've got that lower-end Helio G90T here. That Mali GPU just really can't keep up with the upscaled emulation of PS2. Overall, I'm really digging the Pocket Mini. Love the form factor here, and with a name like Pocket Mini, yeah, this thing slides right in your pocket. I like the display, especially for those 4:3 aspect ratio emulators, and some people were complaining about the amount of RAM here. I mean, you can get 2 or 3, but when it comes to emulation, that's more than enough. As we saw with that Helio G90T, even with PS2 and some GameCube games, it's quite capable the way it is. I'm going to be testing this out for the next few days. I want to get a feel for real-world battery life when it comes to Android gaming, lower-end emulators and higher-end emulators. So I will make another video, but that's going to wrap it up for my first look. If you're interested in learning a little more about the AYANEO Pocket Mini, I'll leave some links in the description. And if there's anything else you want to see running on this device in my next video, just let me know in the comments below. That's it for this one. And like always, thanks for watching.